Hey everybody, welcome to Red Bandit Racing. My name's Jacob. Today I'm going to be showing you a quick overview and comparison of the Losi 8ight-X Elite here and my Losi 8ight-RTR Truggy here. I just wanted to make a quick video for you to go over the differences between an 8ight-X Elite, or over here we have the Losi 8ight-T. It's the RTR version. It applies for the Buggy and the Truggy. I have the Truggy here, but a lot of things are the same about them. So we'll start off here with the 8ight-X Elite. This is a full-blown racing Nitro buggy. It's designed to go faster on a track to win races for you, and everything on it is designed with that in mind, from the chassis to the shocks to everything. It's designed to go fast around a track, and they don't cut corners with that. They don't cut corners with price, and so that shows when you're going to buy it. Some of the differences I'll go over with you. We'll start off here on the front. It's the shocks. On the Losi 8X, or any of the racing ones, the 4.0 or I believe the 3.0 too, you're gonna get these full metal body shocks. They're a nice piece. They're fully adjustable. On the 8 ready to run over here, you got plastic bodied shocks. Just a bare bones shock. One of the things I found with running this rig a lot is, you'll see, I don't know if you could see that there, but you get end play on these because they're a plastic body. Over time, they're gonna wear out. You can just buy new caps for it, but that's something that's worn out. I've also had issues where the end link on the shock will actually pop out from the shaft, and usually you can just pop them back in, but that's something that is a weak link on these things, and you're probably not going to see that as much on these. They're just a little better made, and these still are plastic, but I believe the design is changed on them versus the other shocks. So that's one of the differences with the shocks there. Also, this being an 8T, it's so Truggy version, I believe the shocks are longer on this versus the Buggy. So that's something else to keep in mind. Control arms on a Truggy are longer than on a Buggy. So yes, there's going to be some differences on this rig versus the the kit version of my Buggy that I have here. But if you were to buy the RTR Buggy, it would be similar dimensions to this over here. The next thing I want to go over is the chassis. So the chassis on this, you can see it's just a flat steel chassis, or aluminum actually. Aluminum chassis. There's not much to it. It's just a piece of aluminum. The 8ight-T, or the 8ight-X, I'm gonna call it. You can see it's got all these indentations carved into it, and I believe, from what I understand, this is all for flex. They do this so it allows some flex in the chassis. It's got nice gold color. It's got all those different indentations on there that are to allow for flex of the chassis versus the RTR version. The next thing on them is the control arms. As you can see, the control arms here, they have a bunch of holes in them. Just cheap plastic control arms, made to be pretty durable and light. I've never broken a control arm on this rig. I've run it pretty hard. I've never had an issue with them. Going back over here to the Buggy, it's got carbon fiber inserts. You can see on the back there, no carbon fiber inserts on the back, but this is designed, I believe, to be less flex, a little less flex, better handling characteristics versus the Truggy. This is an RTR, it's going to be more for a basher, something like that. So you're going to want some more flex out of it, but that's kind of the difference between control arms on RTR versus the kit. The next thing is the toe links on these. They're just plastic, non-adjustable. I mean, there are adjustments. You got some adjustments on the bulkhead here, but for the most part, no adjustments there. Now you come over to the 8ight-RT or X. I keep getting confused with these. The X, it's fully adjustable. So you can change, you know, all your little angles that you want to for the tires and, you know, whatever you want, it can be changed. Same thing on the rear. Caster, camber, it can all be adjusted. You know, I don't know strength differences. I don't know what one's stronger. I would assume this one would be more rigid. It's got metal. These actually do have metal in them. They look plastic, but they do have metal that runs through them. So they're not as weak as you would think. I've broken a couple of them. And they usually break right at the ends because that's where the metal stops. I believe the metal stops. Yeah, you can see it. Down in that hole down there. That's where the metal stops. So they break from here on. That's where they'll break. The next thing is the hubs. The hubs are different on these. On the kit versus the RTR. You got plastic hubs in here. I've never had an issue with them. I've never broken one. They're pretty strong. I mean, I've never busted one in my time running this thing, and I've run it pretty hard. Now on the RTR, or the kit one, you got metal hubs for the bearings in there. That's plastic, you know. This is plastic, but your hub itself is metal. So that's an upgrade on here. Another thing I wanted to go over is the drive shafts. These have 4, you know, it's more like a truck style, I would say, the way they're designed. These ones are not. They're like a ball and socket style. So strength difference, these are probably going to be stronger. And you can see the cups are different too. They're kind of cut down on the TLR. These are just a round cup. On to the next thing. The differentials. The differentials are different on these. There's the front diff. Here's your rear diff, you can see. And the back of the rear diff here. Now, a lot of the strength differences, and I don't have the rear diff. I have the pieces to this actually. This is the diff housing. I had a bearing explode on me and it took out the diff. But that was the only failure I've really had on this car. That was major. The TLRs have a lot stronger differential setup. The gears are bigger in them. Everything is just beefier on them. It's a lot stronger. It's made to go racing. These other rigs, it's not as strong on. It's a ready to run. They're trying to cut costs on it. So you're not going to get the same quality that you would on a ready to run rig versus a race ready rig here. And when I say race ready, this is a kit. This is not, this doesn't come with an engine. It doesn't come with electronics. It just comes with the chassis and the driveline. It doesn't come with an exhaust. So that's some of the differences here. Another thing, price versus performance on these. This engine that I have in here, it's a 2103 OS. It costs $550. That costs more than this whole car does. This engine and this car costs about $100. I think 120, something like that. So the price difference is substantial on the parts for these. This kit costs $700 just for the rolling chassis. And that's not electronics or engine or anything. So it gives you an idea of the performance differences, what they're designed for. There's just a lot more metal on this rig. You can see here, this cross plate, this is all metal. The steering rack, all metal. Come over to here, this, plastic. There's some metal there for the steering, but it's just not nearly as quality as this. The shock towers, so we'll measure these. We'll say 5.1. I'll come over the ready to run. 4. So a whole millimeter different on the Team Losi Racing rig. You know, it's thicker. It's designed to take a beating. It's designed for racing. It's designed to be rigid. The back actually is the same as far as thickness on these versus the two. You know, but the quality of it is substantially different. You got all the little beveled edges and, you know, it's designed to look fancy. The next thing on here that I was going to talk about is price versus performance. This car, as it sits, cost, with all the electronics and everything, roughly $1,500 to $1,600 without the radio or anything. That's just the car. This costs about $500 for the Truggy. I think the Buggy of this goes for $470, something like that, $460. So pretty good deal if you ask me. Are you going to get all the performance that you would out of this? No. This is a faster car. This is a better handling car. This is a better car. But at the end of the day, something like this, I've had a lot of fun with this Truggy. It's been really reliable. I haven't broken hardly anything on it. The engine holds the tune pretty well. It's Dynamite 0.28. This engine's a 0.21 in this one. It's a smaller engine, but it probably makes just about as much power, if not more, than the 0.28, just because it's a racing motor. So this has been a good car. If you're not out there racing and you're just wanting to have fun, maybe go to the track or rip around, you will still do great with one of these. You're not going to know the difference probably, really. I mean, unless you're like a pro racer, I don't think it's worth it to get something like this. I got this because I got a really good deal on Facebook. A guy was selling it for $320, and he's only ran it for like an hour, just to break it in. So I bought it. I wouldn't own one of these if it weren't for that. But the difference is, yes, this is a better car, but I don't think it's worth the price difference between these two. The performance, I'm sure it does. I'm sure the racing one is much better on the track. If you were to time it with a professional driver, of course, and maybe you're not a professional driver, but go around and do lap times, you would probably be better on this. But I don't think for the average person, for bashing or anything like that, this is not a worthy investment. It's a pretty cool car, though. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, I would go with something like this. Another thing I wanted to talk about with this, the ready-to-run kits are actually kind of a combination of the 8 4.0 and the 3.0 parts. They share a lot of the parts with the 4.0, but they're actually different when you come down to it, as far as, like, there's certain things on an RTR that are different than the 4.0 or the 3.0. And finding parts for these, you have to go, with either of these, I have to go to a parts blow-up diagram online, look up the parts, and type it into A-Main Hobbies. It's not like a Traxxas where you can go, oh, I need, this shock, I need this toe link, I need, this bolt. It'll pop up for a Traxxas. It doesn't pop up for these. It won't even show up that it's in A-Main Hobbies system or something like that. So unless you put in the exact part number, you're not going to get parts for these. It's a little more in depth for ordering parts for Losis. Either one of these, racing or ready to run. And the parts can be more expensive for a Losi. But at the end of the day, I like Losi and Team Losi Racing. Besides that diff bearing on this rig, I've never had a bearing blow up. I've never had one seize. The design differences are a lot more noticeable in the Losi versus other brands that are out there. And, not everyone needs that. Not everyone, cares. And it is harder to get parts for Losi a lot of the time. But at the end of the day, they're good for racing. They handle very well. They're very sharp and in their performance, and that's the difference really versus other brands that you'll find. But other than that, I think I've covered a lot of the differences. If you want to go racing hardcore, buy something like this, an 8X Elite. If you're everyone else, I would get something like this, 8T RTR or just an 8 RTR Buggy, and you're gonna have a lot of fun with it, just like I had with mine. So if you enjoyed the video, give a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.